Hello and welcome to Matters of Mind. My name is Thomas and I'm going to be reviewing Dr. Sowell's new book, Social Justice Fallacies. Now what I'm going to do is do it one chapter at a time, one video per chapter. So if you like and subscribe and hit that bell notification, you'll be notified when the next versions come out. And I appreciate it because it'll help the channel. So the four fallacies that he goes over in the book are the equal chances fallacy, racial fallacy, chess pieces fallacy, and the knowledge fallacy. So let's get started with the first fallacy, which is the equal chances fallacy. Now what I'm going to do is start off with a quote from the book that sums up the concept that he is trying to get across to the readers. While group equalities in the same endeavors are by no means common, what is common are reciprocal inequalities among groups in different endeavors. So what Dr. Sowell, throughout many of his other books, and he's written more than 40 now, is look at different cultures, different people, their culture and attitude and what they think of different things and how that is manifest through what they produce. And all cultures and all different places and all different people always produce different things. And even people within the same culture produce vastly different things. So when we're looking at the idea of things like equity, where we try to understand the fairness of a community or a society based on the outcomes, especially economic outcomes, it's not really fair to expect that things should end up equitable, because different people from different places, even within the communities and outside of the communities, all have thousands of years of development that has taken them to a different place, and they create different attitudes and different cultures that value different things. Now, the way that Dr. Sowell tends to look at ideas is through empiricism. And what I mean by that is, well, I've got a question. Let's see if we can find a way to look at evidence to answer that question. And this one is a little bit different because very often we're looking at either equal outcomes or equal opportunity. And with equal opportunity, we always say we want to make sure that everyone has the same opportunity. And we can't even really produce that in the sense that assuming that everybody has the same opportunities would be to assume that everyone is coming from the same place with the same things, and that's just not the way it is. And he looks at it a little bit different here, where he looks at the chances of every individual person to have equal outcomes, and then applies that to human culture throughout thousands and thousands of years based on where we develop. So let me get into the very first one that he utilizes to help you understand some of the evidence provided that helps to break down this fallacy that everybody should have equitable outcomes, all other things being equal. The first thing he looks at is birth order. Now, the idea here is that based on whether or not you're a firstborn child, an only child, or a secondborn, third, etc., that you, just because of those differences in themselves, that you are going to have different chances and different outcomes. And the way we look at this is through the averages of those different groups. So on average, the firstborn or only child actually has a higher IQ compared to their second, third, fourth born children. Now remember, it's only an average. You know, people will always say, oh yeah, well I know somebody who was the fifth born child and they were a genius. And of course, those type of exceptions exist, and we probably all know people like that. But what we're looking at here, when we're looking at social sciences, is the average of the group instead of looking for individual exceptions and then thinking that destroys the rule. Another thing, National Merit Scholarship awardees. If you look at them in the United States, even if you combine the second, third, fourth, fifth born children all together in one group, the firstborn and the only children still outnumber the combination of all of those other groups. Astronauts. If you look at astronauts, 22 of the 29 astronauts from the first Apollo mission were all only children or firstborn. Now, what Dr. Sowell does is go through numerous different metrics like that show us that even if we think we can have equitable outcomes, even if you have equal opportunity where everybody is equal before the law, there's parts of human nature, like the birth order that splits the attention of the parents, that is still going to affect people and produce different outcomes. And then he goes beyond that and talks about the geography around the earth. Now, why does that matter when it comes to humans? Well, where you grow up is going to help to dictate what your outcomes are going to be. Now, if you look at that throughout human history, it also applies to where humans develop, helps to dictate the results of that development. Now, places with more coastline and more harbors, where you have a lot more people from a lot of other places bringing their ideas to your culture and sharing those ideas, can help you to develop your culture at a much more rapid pace, as long as you're open to travel and other ideas. And if you look at some of the geography, for example, Africa compared to Europe, Africa has incredibly smooth coastlines. Europe has incredibly jagged coastlines. So even though Africa is massive compared to Europe, Africa is much larger but has less coastline. And what that means is that there's less places where ships can actually safely approach the coast in Africa as compared to Europe. There's a lot less rivers that you can navigate into Africa, into the middle of Africa, and share those ideas, those products with people on the interior. And that's not the way it is in Europe. So that in itself is going to change the manner in which those different places develop. And then climate. If you look at the soil across the tropics as compared to more temperate zones on either side of the tropics, you're going to have very different crops that you can grow there. And well, why does that matter? Well, if you have very different crops and you have the ability to produce more food in those temperate zones that have richer soil, you're going to be able to feed more people. Feeding more people can translate into actually developing cities. Cities that other people want to come to from other places with more people, so they can trade at those markets and share the ideas and further increase the development of those cultures. So I'm going to close out with one more quote from the book. The seemingly invincible fallacy that only human bias can explain different economic and social outcomes among peoples is belied repeatedly by hard facts in societies around the world. Whatever the condition of human beings at the beginning of the species, scores of millennia had already come and gone before anyone coined the phrase social justice. So again, the idea that we should expect equal outcomes, expect equity, as if that's the marker of a healthy society, just doesn't make any sense when you actually think about the manner in which human beings and the earth from which they came and developed are so incredibly diverse. Now, if the system is treating everybody equally and you have diverse inputs, you're going to have diverse outputs. That's just the way it is. So it's really going to be a waste of time to expect equity in a place that doesn't have the foundations to produce equity. There's too much diversity to produce equity. Thanks for joining me here. That was a quick overview, and I encourage you guys to read the book. There's 149 footnotes in this chapter alone, which really helps to make the case the way Dr. Sowell always does it. Please remember to hit the like and subscribe button. If you hit the bell notification, that'll let you know when the next chapter is out, which will be very soon. And thanks for joining me today. Have a great day.